When you do a movie, you always look for the structure of your movie and the elements of the Greek tragedy, but in general, strong structural elements were always the first thing we were looking for in the movie. So yeah, I think we wanted to achieve a very peculiar kind of storytelling and narrative to the movie.
I think love is inevitable, because I think that love is built around the inevitability of loneliness, and that the whole concept of love as something that denies the fact that one is solitary and that one is going to die alone, and that will, if you show your loneliness to someone, it will put them off you. That's a really dangerous myth, and I think that it's a love killer. That whole romantic myth about oneness. I think real love is about two people, or maybe more, saying to each other, I am alone, I am lonely, and I'm prepared to show you my loneliness, and I know you won't mess with it, and I see your loneliness, and let's just keep each other company. That's love.
It's a matter of loneliness.
It's a matter of good company. Good company.
The point about love is that love is a very abstract word that can be immediately stolen by the merchandise system and can be completely dried out of its own force and strength. But yes, I think that being one of the most strong forces that make human beings worth living, it's worth to explore all its possibilities in a movie.
Well, I'm a very blessed person, I have to say, Alex, and for some reason, it always was clear to me that what love is the necessity of being honest and being, that it's possible to be loved, and that it's possible for someone to love you unconditionally and to accept whatever you are. So for me, it's not only incredibly important, but very easy to kind of live in a state of love. But I'm aware that the more I live, how possible it is for people to actually live without love, and to think that it's not really for them, and to think that something that isn't unconditionally accepting is love. And that makes me very, on the one hand, sad, but on the other hand, quite activated to try and look at this theme of the kind of revolution of love in people's lives, I think.
The real love is to find the rose of sublime on the cross of everyday vulgarity, I would say.
Honestly, there are a few similarities between me and Emma, I would say. I mean, she's someone who has lived without love for so long, has really made a deal with life, meaning that she can live without it, that she isn't living in a state of honesty. She doesn't really know who she is at all herself. She's come from one, I would say, quite circumscribed and suppressed society. In her very early 20s, she left Soviet Russia and she came to an even more circumscribed and suppressed society of the haute bourgeois, Milanese, rich, and she's entirely in disguise. She's not in a state of honesty at all. She doesn't even have her own name. She doesn't speak her own language, but she's made a deal with that life. And she says at the very end, after the transformation occurs in her life, she says to this husband she's lived with for 25 years, "You no longer know who I am." And essentially, he says he doesn't want to.
I would say the same qualities that strikes people when they watch a movie with her. An incredible intelligence, passion, creativity, commitment. Not even an international language, cinema, it's a language. And we must all speak, we filmmakers, we should speak that language, not our national language.
A very interesting question. I mean, for me, language in film is not so important. I mean, I'm one of those people who thinks that the cinema went downhill since people started talking in it. I'm a great lover of silent cinema, and as a performer, I feel like I work with silence much more than I work with language. So I feel I'm constantly working in a different language. I've made some films in America and I was working in American, which is a completely different language to the language that I speak. It's not such an important element. What I would say language is, somebody said to me yesterday something about language is the knives and forks of the mind, which I think is a really beautiful way of describing it. What I do like about working with languages of any kind, even my own, is that there's a real split between what we are thinking, what our spirit wants to express, and what language can provide us with the opportunity to say. And that sort of shift between articulacy and inarticulacy is very, very interesting to me. So in a way, working outside of one's own language, which I tend to do a lot, is a way of really manifesting that struggle to articulate oneself.
I have a theory about the audience. The audience is much radical, much more ahead than the industry thinks. If you think of pictures that have became big hits, like the first Tarantino movies and so on, so I think people is craving for being challenged and to become an active part of the experience, not passive. And the international language of cinema, it's not English, it's the film. How would you do it? And nowadays you see a lot of movies that are simply close-ups over close-ups over close-ups. And that's not cinema for me. Cinema is to really know what you're doing and why you're doing it and where you're putting your camera for which reasons.
A dish of food. What a question. Well, my mind is telling me that it would change all the time. It would be like that fantastic chewing gum in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, that you chew a chewing gum and you taste roast beef or you taste apple pie. It would be a dish that could be absolutely mutating, so that at any moment, because I find, as someone who loves food, any minute of the day one can want something for some emotional reason. One can want something very cozy and very home-like, something maybe that your mother made. And the next minute you want a real adventure and you want to go to Asia somehow.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but it's a very good challenge to take. A great philosopher, French philosopher called Alain Badiou, in this beautiful book called Sarkozy, on the President of French Republic, he said, real love is the space that is created by the meeting of two people and their solitudes. And it's not the codependence thing, it's not a seal, it's a third character that comes to life and then acts as a revolutionary force.
Well, if I have a career at all, and frankly I'm not sure that I do, I think I have a life, and I have a life in film. I'm not sure that I would be a performer if it wasn't for Derek Jarman, because Derek Jarman, he made it possible for me to experiment as a performer. I didn't really want to be a performer at all until I met him. I was a writer, but I was a film fan, and I wanted to work in cinema in some way. And he gave me the opportunity to experiment with the idea of being a performer but not being an actor. And I don't know who else would have given me that opportunity to work with my own authorship and to work freely without scripts and without not outside of my own identity. Well, you know, it says a lot when I tell you that my favorite performance of all time is the donkey in Bresson's Au hasard Balthazar. I think that, you know, that's something that Bresson, who for me is really, in many ways, the great master, understands about humanism in cinema, that a real spirit is what you want, whether it's a donkey or whether it's a human being. You want a real whole spirit. You don't want anybody acting. You don't necessarily want language. You want a whole expressed and unconscious, unseen presence, and very often that's something silent. Yeah, an animal. Again, Falconetti is an animal. You know, that's the highest compliment I can pay her, is that she actually is. She transcends the kind of human realm. It's an interesting question. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, you can see something in that film, in the Joan of Arc, that's mysterious in her, and I would suggest maybe that the fact that the film recorded that, the film didn't necessarily put it there. It just recorded that thing, and that was something that actually, you know, destroyed her maybe at the end. But I'm grateful to the film for recording it, because it's really a mystical thing. Thank you, Alex.